Middle calf.
Hey, behave.
Recording this podcast as we watch the big money event on Sunday. Just wrapped up, actually, John. Congratulations to Deion Sanders and Jacksonville State. Big winners.
Do not sleep on primetime. Playing in, it's pretty good real estate. Sunday afternoon, college football.
I wish I'd known that game was on before you told me it just had a dramatic ending, 7-6 between his chain and Patrick Cantley. A lot of money on my TV the last 20 minutes, hour.
I agree. I followed the guy, the chain maker for the NFL guys.
Chainmaker to the stars, yeah. What's his deal?
Yeah, he just I don't know, but he just makes a lot of chains for dudes in the NFL. I mean, talking a lot of chains, and they I'd
It's not
imagine
Jacob the jeweler, is it?
No, he's got a kind of this younger vibe, like a skinnier, smaller DJ Khaled looking type guy, Khaled,
okay.
And he's a businessman. Like he is slinging chains like that. Whatever the dam was that, like, he impressed a couple people, they've all talked to each other, and he's Panay Sewell to this guy to this team, and he's hitting multiple guys on the same team. I'm not a chain guy. But I'm guessing just by looking at the some of the pieces that he's given them, probably starting around six figures. So he's doing well.
Now these are not like spinning chains; these are just the chains.
Yeah, I mean some of the all sorts of stuff. Some
teddy
spinners. Yeah, just anything you want. This guy's got in the bag.
All right.
And he goes to people. He goes to a lot of. It feels like a lot of guys that have big contracts that he gravitates towards.
Big word of mouth. Probably doesn't advertise. Google advertisements don't pop up on your searches.
Yeah, I don't think he's chasing down undrafted free agents or anything like that either. It's like he's going like Panay Sewell, like Jamar Chase. Like right. He was. I remember right when those guys before camp, like he was associated with like those type guys.
When you sign a contract, he probably pays the NFL to have like his flyer included in the official documents you get when you sign an NFL contract. You know?
Yeah, like I'm in.
Like when you buy a car, and it's like, oh look, there's this Geico has a flyer in here. They pay Ford to get a flyer and all of their paperwork.
It would not shock me if within the next 12 months he gravitates toward like Bryce Love, DJ Ungala. I mean, those guys aren't getting pennies from Dr. Pepper or Raging Cajuns or whoever's sponsored them, right? Nick said they're getting seven figures.
Raging Cajuns, is that your made-up Southern restaurant?
Yeah, there was Raising Cane's was one of the guys. JT Daniels maybe.
I think it's Southern. Is it just Cane's or is it Raising Cane's?
That's a good question. I don't quite know. Maybe it's Cane's. Looks like I'd eat it for sure. I'd eat it for dinner tonight.
It's like a fried. Is it like a to-go fast food like?
It's kind of got like Popeyes, Wendy's, kind of mixture type deal.
Gotcha.
Chick-fil-A open on Sundays,
Somebody hit me up. I don't know if you've noticed this, John, but now Facebook Messenger is also is like Instagram messages. Have you noticed this?
I have not, no.
So I got an Instagram message. It turned out it was a Facebook message saying, "Is this where I put my mailbag question?" I'm like, God, no. I mean, I'm gonna lose it if it's in my Instagram DMs. And there's no way I'm remembering that. So we got to figure something else out there. The first place you go is to iTunes and leave us a review there. That's the mailbag. 5 stars. Leave a question in that. Tell us your favorite bar when you do that. Send it along. And we will post a post on Facebook on the links on YouTube in the description. It's also in the podcast description, and you can access through there as well.
Yep. So go like that. Like I said, the iTunes. You can hit us up on DMs. I think, does that cover it?
No. Well, the other thing that you mentioned last week that was successful, so we need to keep the momentum going on that is.
Oh, yeah. We need, and football it's here. College football. We're recording this a little bit before Notre Dame game. It feels back. We're headed into week 1. As you watch games on the weekend, or, just you could be doing whatever. We had a guy, I think, from the K, also known as Kauffman Stadium. He was just in the outfield having a Tito's. I like that. Wherever you are, but obviously if you're at home, a lot of people are going to be at home this fall consuming football, right?
You have to be at
Saturday,
home
Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays. You can wherever you are. Take us a picture of your Tito's, right? Take us a picture of your Tito's, your cocktails. We have someone send us a tweet. He was just like making steaks. I don't even think there was Tito's involved. He just did like his dinner plate.
I
got
gotta
a little
go back
after
through
it this weekend, but I saw something of a guy making food. So just if you're getting after it with your buddies, wherever.
This was Liam.
He was just grilling steaks.
Yeah, you're right. There's no Tito's in this. It's just steaks on paper plates, just with some veggies and some garlic bread and some football. A couple TVs set up. I got to get through. If you guys sent us stuff, John was just, it sounded like raging all weekend. And neither one of us were spending a lot of time in our mentions, I guess, this weekend, but we'll have to go back through there and acknowledge people this week because we appreciate that. Yeah. I didn't realize that. I assumed there was Tito's in there somewhere.
I get great joy out of like real. Obviously, the pictures are badass. Our friends at Tito's, partners at Tito's, our people at Tito's. They really enjoy them too. Yeah. I do enjoy a good interactive, like even if it's short, 10-second video of just what's going on. Right? They bring joy to my life.
Yeah, because a video is very uncurated, right? Like you can take just a photo and you can like move a few things and hide your dirty laundry. You do a video, it's hard to like hide whatever mess you got in the sink, and it's raw and real, John. It's raw and real. So
exactly.
Definitely keep sharing those. We appreciate that, and Tito's appreciates that.
We do.
I mean, since we're already talking about Tito's, let's just say this podcast is sponsored by Tito's. Handmade vodka. They are on board. Right now is what it's really for, right? Is now that football season is rolling. Tito's is here, and we appreciate them very much. If you, for some reason, don't already know about the #1 vodka in America, go know yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I was around a lot of people this weekend in Fresno. Every single one of them drinking Tito's. I can't. It is. Obviously, we know this. We talk about Tito's a lot, and now everyone listening knows that we talk about them a lot, and now they talk about it a lot. The #1 vodka, but when you just see every single person pouring themselves a Tito's and soda, a Tito's and lemonade, you can just make sweet drinks up. You're like, let's do Tito's. My cousin Kenny, Fresno State, we thought we had him, but as you text me yesterday, guy, you've been watching the same game for 20 years. I think it's literally happened against Oregon like 4 different times in our adult life.
It happened at home.
That game against that team.
It happened at home at Bulldog Stadium. Fake extra point.
It happened when Kenny was on the team. I think in 2006, they had a tight game up there in Autzen that they lost late that they were winning. That they've had that game up there before. But like Kenny's a big Tito's and Truly guy. Now you got to be careful. That's a lot. Like Truly is the mixer. So it's just you get 2 or 3 in, you're like, whoa. But you can go a little Truly and then put a little lemonade on top. You just got so many options. And if you're listening to this, send us pictures with all of your options, what you're putting in there. Obviously, American made, Austin, Texas. The Tito's hit it big, right? I mean, we've told this story over and over. Maxed out, I think, 19 credit cards. Was just a man with a vision. He didn't dream. He believed, as Jimmy Johnson would say. He believed, guy. And it just happened. Thanks to Trader Joe's, right? They once had a call after he won this San Francisco Food and Wine Festival, and then the rest is history. And now they're just kicking ass and taking names. Tito's, #1 vodka in America. No big deal.
Yeah, a lot of people have been including their ginger beer. It's been, maybe just because it's fantastic, but we're getting a lot of photos including that. My recommendation is the ginger beer you can get at Trader Joe's if you have that option. But so many great recipes. So we'll come up. We need to get a new recipe for this week, John.
Gotta get the Tito's and Truly or Tito's and White Claw.
That's not one I consider.
It's good.
I don't think that one is
pretty good.
I don't know if that one's corporate approved. But Tito's is distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to be talking about some games this week. We did some picks last week. MyBookie.ag promo code Hammond, the #1. They'll match that deposit 100% up to $1,000. And you can accept the bonus. You can decline the bonus as well. Remember, if you accept the bonus, you got to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. But either way, Ham won. Let them know we sent you.
We need to get in the super contest. I told our friends at MyBookie we would. I'm going to tweet out the link this week. Everyone should get in. It's a lot of fun. I think, are we going to bring back the lock of the week?
Yep.
Start that this week. What are you thinking? A couple hundred each?
The number? That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, $500. I mean, we could. You got to get enough to just. It's like Phil said. I think I heard I think it was. I don't know who the golfer was, but he's like, I was kind of a nobody. Phil was established. We were playing a practice round. He's like, listen, I have to gamble. Like, and I have to make it enough to make it interesting. I know I can meet you at some price point, but we got to make it enough where it's, pretty locked in. I think this game, we'll dive into this game. I think the only true lock of the week that I would feel comfortable is honestly the Niner game. There are actually a lot of games that like kind of, I mean, even the shitty ones, the Texans Jags, like I can see any team winning that game. Washington football team, then like the solid games, Washington football team Chargers. I don't know, right? I mean, Miami New England. There are a lot of coin flip games this week, guy. There really are.
I would. Week one is very dicey in the NFL. I mean, we saw week one. Week ones always are just kind of dicey. But remember last year, the Jags beat the Colts week one. And
Browns Chiefs. That's a pretty good game.
You easily could have picked Colts over Jags as a week one lock last year, right?
It probably would have been considered. I think we went Giants or Jets.
Yeah, we just had a plan early. We stuck to our plan for several weeks, and then we got bored with our plan. But that was. I
think
plan.
we stick to that plan now.
I think we stick to that plan.
And our plan, I think, was anything that we viewed early in the season. Obviously, you're taking educated guesses, but playoff level teams against teams that should be drafting very high, bet on the playoff level team. So when it was like Chiefs Jets, right? 49ers Jets. Whoever was playing the Giants, we kind of did that. And we're like, this is too easy. And we started trying to get like the overs with Alabama, Ole Miss.
Well, we started doing parlays.
Or no, we picked. Yeah, we got greedy.
Like, I like that game. And I like that game.
Can't get greedy. But mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. The NFL's back, baby. The NFL is back. Monday night, Ole Miss is playing on Monday night. So if you want to get, some juices flowing before Thursday, the line right now for Bucks Cowboys is 7.5. It'll be interesting to see what that thing kicks off at about. Feels like probably get up closer to 9. A lot of people probably get, and I actually think, I don't even know what I think. I'm just excited to watch that game.
About the Cowboys?
It feels like everyone just assumes, and we were talking about this before we jumped on, that Tampa's going to win like 40-10.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where if it's your first instinct that Tampa's going to roll, should you just go the other way because that's probably everybody's first instinct? It's what I think should happen. Yeah.
So does everybody, though.
For good reason, too. It's not like for no reason. So,
one philosophy I would have gambling. Did you see like the Cowboys, Zach Martin? He's out this week.
Yeah.
I would not put money on a game is like I would get as close up to the game as you can. Right. I think it is risky this season, probably more than ever before, like last season, to bet on like a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. I just don't think you can take that risk because all of a sudden, like, Tom Brady's out. You're like, what? Hell, I mean, could they beat the Cowboys with Blaine Gabbert? Maybe they could. Blaine Gabbert even on the team? I don't even know. I assume he's the backup. Maybe Kyle Trask is.
Well, no. Wait, there was 3 guys last year. There was Gabbert, and who was the other guy? There was
not Barkley.
The guy who was holding him up. No. The guy who was holding him up coming out of off the boat. The guy who was holding up Tom after the Super Bowl party. What was that guy's name?
That's a good question. I don't know.
He's not there anymore. 2020. Unless he's on their practice.
Who's the backup quarterback?
Blaine, and then Trask. Somebody in the chat know what that guy's name was?
I'll find out right
now. He was
cares?
He was like a Blaine lookalike, basically. Anyway. Okay, so did you want to? We got a little breaking news. Should we just acknowledge that first?
Yeah.
While we're here, let me throw the news up.
What's the breaking news?
Well, the chat just keeps bringing it up. The Josh Norman sign with the Niners. If you're listening to this Monday, this may not feel like the biggest story of the week to you, and we don't have to spend much time on it. But I mean, it's just a big name player. What he's got left, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of expectation because it's September 5th. Most guys with a lot left in the tank don't sign on September 5th, probably, unless they were holding out or holding in. That was not the case here. But they did just sign Josh Norman, which is, and it's definitely an acknowledgement that one of my concerns, I think a lot of people's concerns for several months with this team, just cornerback depth, it's a real thing. Whether or not he can play, I mean, what did he play? 3 games last year, or started 6 games last year for the Bills? 3 games.
Mosley got hurt a couple weeks. Mosley got hurt a couple weeks ago, so is his health in question? I wonder if that's a factor. Like, is Mosley good enough to go week 1, right? And then all of a sudden you're going, well, do they feel comfortable starting a rookie? Because the thing with their nickel corner, a lot of teams have a nickel corner who can, or at least some teams have their nickel corner is their starting corner who just bumps inside, and then the third guy is the outside guy too. The Niners nickel corner is a nickel corner only. K'Wan Williams, who's good, but he can't play outside, which kind of, pigeonholes them somewhat, right? I think like Jason Verrett, he can, if in a pinch, he can do both. So, Jalen Ramsey can do both, even though, as we found out when they played the Raiders in the practice, Renfro said, let's have at it, buddy. But it does limit you when a guy at corner can only do one thing if he's your nickel and he can't play outside. So you basically just have a corner who only plays inside. So if a guy gets injured, they either have to go, well, are you cool with just starting rookies? You cool with starting Lenore, right? Or Ambry Thomas? Like, could one of those guys start? And I'd argue, like, if you had to start him against the fucking Lions, I do think that's startable.
But you told me Mayoko wrote a piece that Ambry Thomas probably won't be active week 1.
Well, no, he just wrote like the guy's most likely to be inactive week 1, but that's also if you get an injury, that changes immediately, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Unless Josh Norman takes a spot.
When you draft a corner, they didn't draft Ambry Thomas in the first round, but you would have liked him to have been ready by the beginning of the season. It's not make or break, especially if Mosley's healthy enough to play. But
is Josh Norman going to be on the team come the Lions game?
He might not be, right? You make signings all the time.
Maybe this is just a couple-day tryout to get a feel where you at, and maybe you go, damn, we'll take his chances. Or it'd be pretty outrageous to just sign a guy off the street for week 1 and then he ends up starting. That'd be pretty nuts.
Yeah, it might be as simple as do you sign him just because you're not exactly sure. Maybe you won't feel like until Wednesday whether both your starters are going to be, we're not sure on Mosley, so let's just sign a guy just in case. Maybe he gets cut before the season. Maybe he starts the game. I don't know. Yeah. But you would hope that, Ambry Thomas or Diamador Lenore could be more ready than him, but that might not be the case. It does make me wonder, would Richard Sherman, if it had not been for his issues, would he have been signed by the 49ers by this point in time? Right?
You would think you'd rather have Richard Sherman. Yeah, you'd rather have Richard Sherman than Norman. Right? I would.
Now, would you sign Richard if it was a situation where you were going to sign a guy Sunday and you might cut him by Wednesday? I don't know if you would do that to Richard. If Richard would do that or if you would do that to him. But I don't. We're just guessing what the situation could be.
It does feel like you have more room to just do NFL cold-blooded stuff with Josh Norman than you would for Richard, who has been a big part of your organization for the last 3 years. To treat him like you can just with older players that you don't know, right? It's like it's a lot easier to make a decision like a one-night stand than it is with someone that you've dated for a long time to just treat like whatever. I just won't call her back. Like you can't. They just would not do that to Richard Sherman,
right?
Because I do not think this guy's a lock to be on the team by the weekend. But maybe it's just as simple as this: he was going to sign with a team or two. Nothing's guaranteed with anywhere he's going to sign. But if they wanted to get a quote-unquote tryout for this guy, they had to sign him. But it's not nothing. Like, you don't just randomly sign a guy September 5th.
Mike Garofalo says... sorry, go ahead.
Nothing.
Garofalo says Norman can earn up to $2.5 million with this deal, source says. Had other interest as well. Gets a deal with a base value above the minimum. So maybe he will make the 53-man roster.
Why wouldn't you have signed him 2 weeks ago?
Maybe something. That's where you want. That's what makes you wonder. Did something happen to somebody that we don't know about yet from an injury standpoint?
That party that they threw last night in San Jose with all the guys. You think maybe someone rolled an ankle?
Maybe somebody's waiting on a second COVID test. I don't know.
Yeah. This isn't nothing. It's not nothing for sure.
So
it would it shock you if something comes out tomorrow? Someone has tested positive or someone torn a hamstring or who knows? I don't know.
The other thing it could be is like you had some time off last week. You just kind of take a step back, you reevaluate your whole roster, and you go, are Lenore and Ambry Thomas ready? Right? Because it happens, like you said, that Mayoko wrote this piece about Ambry Thomas probably not going to be on the 53-man roster week 1. Like, okay, guys, how do we feel about this team?
No, not going to be active. He's going to be on the roster, inactive. Like he did the
46.
inactive stuff on game. Yeah.
Okay. Not going to be active week 1. Sorry. Thank you. But did you take some time and go, okay, who are we really comfortable putting on the field right now? Week 1.
Yeah, could it be as simple as they had a couple days off, the coaching staff, some cocktails were drank, Tito's, Kyle's on his couch. You just try to kind of go do some deep thinking. You're like, yeah, I don't really love this group as much a couple days without seeing them. Like I need to text John, who already has the scout outfit down. I mean, Nike tennis shoes, pair of jeans, untucked team polo.
Team issue shoes, right? The shoes are team issue.
That is what scouts wear. He's got it down perfectly. Now, he has clearly a better body type, no rolls, just broad shoulders, pulls off like he just makes that outlook look very normal. But he just rocks it pretty consistently.
Yeah,
pretty well.
It's really the best. I mean, it can go into the suite at the Stanford game. You can take a photo with Jerry Jones's daughter. You can wear it to the bar. You can wear it. You're gonna go check in. Say hi to your wife while she's at the spa on your way to a round of golf. Hit some balls. Maybe
his
not
son
a round
on
of
the
golf,
team.
but hit some balls.
His son on the team. Still.
Yeah, he's a senior, I guess.
So that probably made when I saw that picture yesterday. Probably going there to watch his kid play. Pretty big, And
I guess
pretty big deal.
I heard there were a lot of Stanford alums there, like David DeCat, just like a suite with a bunch of Stanford guys at that game too.
Jerry's World, is that where they played?
They played Jerry's World, and I think that stage was Elway the honorary captain, or something like that.
Lynch, you mean?
Yeah. Lynch.
Oh, Elway was there too.
No, Lynch.
It wouldn't. Yeah, I would
I
imagine.
think that's what the
I
tweet
probably
you
was.
said, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. He's there to watch his kid when you have him, throw the coin toss or something.
Yeah.
That game started early. The 9 a.m. kickoffs for West Coast teams come at you fast.
To come at them fast, as it turned out for Stanford.
Yeah.
Josh Norman will be 34 years old in December, by the way.
Age is
NFL
number.
age. Well, NFL age is a different number than real life.
Hasn't been able to run for a long time. When they had the Super Bowl here, and we were on Radio Row, I remember doing like a Comcast hit on like Tuesday night, and he was there, like also doing part of like Sports Talk Live or whatever. I just remember bullshit with him for like 20 minutes. He actually was pretty normal.
Yeah. Well, was
remember, because at the time he was just the NFL, the Super Bowl. They just had different guys in different places, right? I think his team made him go there, and at the time, I mean, he was. Would you call him kind of a poor man's Richard Sherman? Like, he's been a polarizing, outspoken, loud. He's a tall corner who can't really run, physical guy. But he's just a lot of yapping from him. Richard's had much more substance, it felt like, over the years behind his.
He's not as tall as, he's not Richard. Yeah, like you said, he's not quite.
I think he's like 6'1", though, isn't he?
He's listed at 6 foot.
I felt he was pretty tall. You're right. Richard's huge. Richard's massive.
Yeah.
But he's just in that kind of, like, he's a similar, like, their playing style, right? I mean, that type guy fits that, quote unquote Seattle defense, tall corner who can tackle.
Yeah.
Can't run.
Well, all right.
I saw Kella Weatherspoon got traded this weekend.
To the Eagles. Because I saw it's going to be, pick a Niner receiver versus a Kello in 2 weeks.
Well, think about that. Whenever a guy who plays for you and he's in it any good, and then he goes somewhere and he signs, then he gets value, and they made him look okay. That's kind of crazy how that all played out.
All right, So we got the breaking news aside of Josh Norman signing with the Niners. We'll see what becomes of that. But we thought we would start the show to start the week, since it's week 1, with just some of the best storylines that we see ahead this week in the NFL. We'll get to some of the lines, because the Niners right now, as we record this on Sunday afternoon, are them and the Bears and the Bucks are the biggest favorite. Them and the Rams and the Bucks are the biggest favorites at 7.5 points. And obviously, it's a big week from a injury standpoint, just to find out Trey Lance's finger and what his status is. But week 1 is here. Let's go through some of the best storylines we like just for this week. Things we're looking forward to, because I remember several weeks ago we looked at week 1. I think maybe it was 2 weeks after the preseason ended. And I think you could make the case that there's one game that doesn't interest you. Shouldn't it? I mean, maybe you could find something. But for me, when I look at the schedule, there's only one kind of game that I could go the whole day without seeing a highlight and wouldn't miss it. That's it. One game.
See, I disagree with you on this game because I have another game that I wouldn't watch. I'd watch this game over the other game.
Okay, so the game that I find I could skip. You just tell me that. You just give me the box score and the score at the end, and I'll know what happened. Is Broncos Giants? That's the game. Now I do think you could acknowledge, because we've talked about this. The Broncos have some talent. Surtain now. No, not Surtain.
Yeah, no, they got
Surtain. Surtain.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy, good defense. Like, maybe they'll be solid, but people. This whole like the Giants are going to be a good thing that's been coming from somewhere for the last 4 months. I don't know. I would say that's the game you can
remember. They missed the playoffs last year. They missed the playoffs because Sudfeld came in, and then you realize, oh yeah, they went 5-11 or something. You're like, yeah, no shit, you sucked.
What game would you have?
To me, the Texans and the Jags. Like, I mean, just show me the score. Like, I don't care. That is
crazy.
A terrible game, guy. Texans
Trevor
and the
Lawrence,
Jags. You
Urban
like
Meyer?
that game more than the Broncos and the Giants?
What are
just
you?
the talent.
Tell me who you are just fired up to watch. Broncos Giants.
Well, it's just Saquon Barkley, Von Miller. There's like star people in that game. The Texans
I know what that looks like. I don't know what Trevor Lawrence in the NFL looks like. Give me that.
Again, but you're gonna watch them against the Texans like that. You're talking. I mean, those two teams might combine for 4 wins.
That's okay. I just want to see Trevor Lawrence play an NFL game. We've been talking about this guy for 3.5 years being an NFL player. And Urban, I watched him the other night. The misery on his face. Like, is this gonna last? I thought he should come to the NFL. Jags, hire him. But
I'm not disagreeing in your Broncos Giants game. I mean, that game, I'm not very interested in it. But I just think they're at worst equals. Like, I think that game is pretty bad. I mean, the Texans are just a laughingstock. They're gonna feel like watching Detroit Tiger baseball or something. Like, you're gonna be turned off just the moment you see them on your screen, as everyone will. And immediately
not if it's
change the channel.
Not if it's Trevor. No, to me again, like, this goes back to my pattern when it comes to preseason. I am more interested early in a football season in seeing the people that we haven't seen yet than seeing Saquon Barkley and Von Miller. I already know what that looks like.
See, I don't consume, I think, the NFL. Like, I am here, like, give me fucking Mahomes, week 1 Browns. Like, that's what I'm into.
I'm here for that
Justin
too.
Herbert. Like, I don't care about any until you're relevant. Then I pay attention.
Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 pick in the draft. He's relevant.
I know, but and if he's playing the Colts, like, okay, I'll pay attention. Like, you're playing the Texans, I'm sorry, I'm just not. It does nothing for me.
Wow, we fundamentally
disagree.
Okay, so John would rather watch Teddy Bridgewater and Daniel Jones than one of the greatest quarterback prospects in the history of the league. But maybe that's just the scout in me. I don't know.
No. I don't. I'm just not paying attention to any of them. Like, I'm fascinated by Washington football team Chargers.
All right, let's talk about
I'm fascinated by Chiefs Browns.
Don't jump around. Start with that game. Chargers.
Well, it's like, one thing I think that's crazy this year, and I think it kind of Josh Allen would fall into this too, like with Herbert, though Josh had played more. Those guys kick so much ass in front of nobody. Like, if you watch Josh Allen and Justin Herbert last year, and obviously Herbert was a rookie, so it was really remarkable. You're like, this guy just, I mean, these guys might not be Mahomes, but holy shit, they're kind of like that, right? Is it just going to look like that with fans in the stands not being able to hear? I mean, we watched college football all weekend. It is dramatically like, you're going to play Wisconsin, Virginia Tech. Like, it's hard. Washington football team, they think they're going to be pretty good. I bet that place is rocking. Is he just going to go in there and just slice and dice them? Oh, on top of that, their defense is legit. Like, is he just going to be a star? Is it really that easy?
That's the number one question. That I think is one of the best storylines of week 1. Is like, they don't have to be playing. That's the beauty of what you just said. They don't have to be playing the Bucs or the Rams or some Super Bowl contender for it to be real. Every game they play, just because we've seen you can be, I mean, not anybody can be a one-year wonder, quote unquote. Even that's hard. But there's all this talk about Josh Allen. Has he had the best year of his career already? No one's having that conversation with Justin Herbert, but the trajectory he's on, it's so ahead of any schedule, right? Like, if he continues on the trajectory, we're talking about one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL. And we know that he has the physical skills to match it. So this year is like, if he can build off of last year and is even better in a year where there's expectations and there's fans, and that was one of the great benefits for any rookie quarterback that played in 2020. Even though you didn't get the experience of playing in front of fans, you did you did, depending on where you played, but there was just kind of a soft landing and you got some experience in a way that NFL players don't normally get experience, especially quarterbacks. And it's Brandon Staley. Like, they just hired this guy that they think is some defensive Sean McVay. Well, is he?
Well, he's been a coordinator for 1 year. coordinator for 1 year.
They've got
that
this
to me is pretty
gem,
nuts.
right? They've got this gem in Justin Herbert. And if any available coach would have been crazy not to want that job, and some unavailable coaches should have wanted that job. And they went with a guy that maybe nobody else would have hired last year as their head coach. Maybe somebody else.
I think he got some other interviews, but you're right. He probably wouldn't have gotten an offer.
Maybe the Eagles took a massive swing. They took
a big swing.
And it's just awesome. It's really fascinating.
I'd say you could push back against the swing. I mean, they've historically been a little cheap. I mean, just relative. If he doesn't have other offers,
it could be that they weren't taking a big swing, that they were just being cheap. That's possible. But it's just whatever it is, if they are wrong, are they stunting Justin Herbert, a guy that almost every team in the NFL would trade who they have right now for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, to me, the other game, in the morning slate that, obviously, you and I and anyone listening to this are just pretty locked in on I just say Seattle games. I feel like I follow Seattle pretty closely. I was in the car this morning and I heard Fortenbaugh on radio had a good stat about Seattle in one-score games the last several years. They're like 19-6. Like and clearly you watch them. We talked about it throughout this offseason, right? They went 12-4 last year. But watching them last year, they didn't. 12-4 is a pre-17 games elite record. Like I'd say 12-4 and above. Like you were a big time team. They felt much closer to like 10-6. And you hear a stat like that, you're like, okay, I get it. They pull some games out of their ass, and they have. And that's just, I think it's just a defining attribute of Russell. But they are facing, definitely one of the better defenses in the league the last couple of years in the Colts, and then factoring in Carson Wentz. Like, that is a sweet week 1 game. I mean, just on paper, and the moment the schedule came out, like Seattle Colts week 1 morning, like I'm in.
And then it lost some luster when we thought Wentz was going to miss the first month of the season. But now that he's back, what's interesting about the Colts, I think, is that everything you just said about Seattle is kind of historically the position that Phillip Rivers has been in, and he goes to the Colts, and the Colts look like a Phillip Rivers team last year. I mean, Wentz has been kind of like that too, where he just ends up in some really weird games in the afternoon on a Saturday, the way that Phillip always was in San Diego. Wentz has got some weird tendencies. We spent a lot of time talking about him and whether or not he'd be worth trading for. This is his shot, right? This is his best shot.
Yeah.
He won't get a better shot than this one to resurrect his career with this roster that's good, coaching staff. I mean, the whole thing. Like nobody in the league believes in Carson Wentz more than Frank Reich does. So if Frank were to ever give up
and
on
the Colts, just the Colts in general, like they're kind of all in on him, right? I mean, it's just they're tied at the hip. Like if he succeeds, they will have success. Yeah. Obviously, when any of your players, but I mean, just the nature of the way his career has played out, and to me, like it's just, I guess, because the NFC West plays the AFC South this year. Cardinals Titans pretty good opening game too. Like I mean, that's at Tennessee, the Titans just going to kick their ass. Todd Downing, a guy that years ago, let's face it, he was a terrible offensive coordinator. Like it was just, I do believe as an offensive coordinator, clearly you get better with time, right? You just have experience. You know what you're doing. Like if you talk to Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur would tell you 3 years ago, I'm much better than I am. I'm better now. I do think you're kind of born would be the wrong word, but like your coach, once you get the shot, you either kind of have the instincts to be a play caller or you don't. Now you can improve, but like, I just remember watching him going, this doesn't have a feel for calling
it'd be
plays.
Interesting to find out how many guys to look back who failed as a coordinator and then succeeded as a coordinator in their next opportunity.
So he has, 3 horses, right? Legitimate horses: Henry, AJ, and Julio against the Cardinals, who I just think have immense pressure on them. Just the number 1 overall pick. I think anything less than the playoffs, everyone's going to get fired. And all of a sudden, if you're the Niners, you get the Lions week 1. I mean, you wouldn't mind seeing the Colts and Titans take care of business.
Yeah.
Like, do you view the Colts and Titans both as playoff teams? They've been basically the last several years.
Yep.
Right? They'll be right in the mix.
It would be disappointing for them. I mean, obviously it's disappointing for anybody, but it would be a failure for them to not make the playoffs. That's a better way to put it.
Now you could argue that like both those games, I mean, they're at Tennessee, at Indy. So is it that bad of a loss for either one of those teams?
I mean,
it's not that crazy.
Yeah, we're just talking about like that's a storyline. Like that's particularly for the Niners where the division, you feel like we'll come down to one game. Jets at Panthers. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but Zach Wilson's fascinating. He was he was in Vegas last night, Saturday night, and Sam Darnold is playing against the team that just traded him to the Panthers, so they just picked Zach Wilson over him. That game could end up looking worse than like I would expect. Like I could get jacked up for that game and then watch it and go like, all right, click. But anyway,
wait, Allegiant Stadium had a college football game.
That's where BYU
Arizona
played. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
That is pretty sweet. And he was there?
Yep.
That's a pretty big deal for them.
Steelers, Bills.
Just have a starting quarterback.
You mean for BYU or for Allegiant Stadium?
Yeah. I mean, remember we talked about it last year. Like, just have a starting quarterback in the league is a big deal for a program. Steelers, Bills.
Easy one.
Yeah. I mean, that's, to me, Steelers, Bills, Browns, Chiefs just feel big. I mean, those are just those. I mean, we got like playoff games week 1.
How about Packers Saints? Packers on the road. That game feels a little different because it's in New Orleans, right? Miami at New England.
What's the afternoon slate? Packers Saints, Broncos Giants, Miami New England.
That's the
not the greatest. I guess Chiefs Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's three really interesting afternoon games. Browns Chiefs is like, could the Browns just win week 1? Beat the Chiefs?
I mean, yeah, well, I think Arrowhead is a tough place to play. That place probably going nuts.
And then Miami, New England's really interesting. Mac Jones, who you told me was what did Rob Ninkovich say?
He was teaching Cam Newton the playbook this offseason. He was teaching Cam Newton the playbook, the Patriots playbook.
Apparently didn't do a good enough job. I've never heard of that. It's one thing if you came like it was your college coach got hired and like you were Joe Burrow and Joe Brady drafted you and then you come in and you're teaching other quarterbacks, but not when like that quarterback was there before you running the offense.
Well,
but he wasn't running.
The thing that I thought is, was the offense. What did they actually run last year? Right? What were they really running? Did they bust out like the playbook with Tom's face on the front and hand it to both guys?
Cam's like, wait,
what
are these
like
plays?
happened.
I thought, were these the same coaches from last year?
Yeah.
Josh, what is this?
I know.
Bears Rams on Sunday night.
That's a good one.
Will we see Justin Fields by the third quarter?
So I think the way we're looking at it, NFC West wise, it feels like the Rams are going to win. The Niners obviously heavy favorites. Then if one of those two teams win, that's a big win for either Seattle or Arizona, right? You beat the Colts on the road or you beat Tennessee on the road, like that would be big wins. Like the Niners aren't going to get any credit for their win. Obviously, we'll talk about if they were to lose, it'd be devastating. Clearly, the Rams. I mean, people think the Rams are going to kill the Bears. They're going to think they're going to kill. Like if you just ask a random NFL fan, people think the Bears aren't going to be good. I've talked to some people who just. I know that like Sando did this article ranking the NFC teams. They were near the bottom. Like they're. I think people in the league think that they could go like 5 wins. Jason Peters, who's 39 years old, who was unemployed up till 2 weeks ago. They signed. He's their starting left tackle. Like they just signed him and boom, he started starting left. Like their offensive line. Yeah, Andy Dalton, the over/under on him making it to week 2 healthy is probably not that high.
Well, it's such a tough spot because Justin Fields obviously would be a better option behind a bad line on one hand, but on the other hand, you go, okay, we're putting our rookie in because our line sucks. That's not a great spot to put a rookie quarterback. As much as you think Justin Fields could be the guy, like I do get if you think our line sucks. Like, do I want to put Justin Fields behind that right away? Whereas at least Andy kind of knows where the ball's supposed to go and maybe can get rid of it quickly. But at some point, you're right. Like they may not have a choice.
It's tough. It's tough. This week 1 schedule. I'd give it like a B+. I mean, it's not just remarkable, but it's week 1, so it's probably actually an A- just because it's interesting. Well, but we'll talk about that game, I think, on Sunday.
Monday Night Football, John? You trying to get away without getting the Ravens Raiders?
No, because we'll get into that on Sunday, right?
Okay. It's just we'll
give it. Yeah,
like I love that game.
We'll talk about it for sure. I know. I'll have takes.
Why are you trying to put it off?
Takes. Well, because we're gonna talk. I'm not gonna blow my load on this one yet.
All right. Well, I'm excited for that game at least. So I'm right here.
That is an excellent game.
Derek Carr hasn't played. Game. I mean, it's Ruggs. It's a new defense. It's Lamar. Monday Night Football.
It's a big one.
Cool. Yeah, it is. It's Gruden. Have you heard about this guy?
The NFL. I do give them credit. I guess not credit. This is probably a no-brainer. I mean, the LA and Vegas Stadium gets in Monday Night Football. It's a pretty big deal with fans. Should be pretty cool. I mean, listen, both those places I would love to go.
Oh yeah.
Sunday nights the Rams and Monday nights the Allegiant. It's pretty sweet. You've been to Allegiant. You said it was badass.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool. All right. The Niners are the biggest spreads of week 1 as we look at them right now. 3 teams are 7.5 point favorites. The Bucs are a 7.5 point favorite over the Cowboys on Thursday. The Rams are a 7.5 point favorite against the Bears on Sunday. And the 49ers are a 7.5 point favorite against the Lions, 10 a.m. on Fox on Sunday. So, there's a few different ways to look at this. I think one thing that's interesting about it is, as we record this Sunday, we did have the photo from the charity event on Saturday. Didn't look like, as you pointed out to me, good scouting. Didn't see the splint on Trey Lance's finger at the party. Maybe he doesn't have the accessories.
No splint.
But there are a lot of other games on their schedule. Maybe by the middle point of it, there's going to be a time when Trey Lance's health affects the spread. This week against the Lions is not one of those times, though. Healthy or not.
Yeah, I mean, they are. When you look through the schedule this week, them and the Rams, but the Bears to me are way better than the Lions, even if you don't view the Bears as that good. So, is there a game that's more you just kind of got to win? They're just you can't.
Is it honestly, you're saying is it the biggest got to win? No, I'm with you.
I'd say the spread. If it was 10.5, I wouldn't say anything. They should beat the shit out of these guys. Now it's week 1. You notice it a little with college football, even though it's hard to compare it to the NFL. Week 1s do get weird, right? I mean, every team, you've waited all off season. You've been talking about the opponent in meetings for 6 months. It's a big freaking deal. You feel. I was just looking at some of the scores in college football, like Iowa State, who some people view as a sleeper playoff team. Now, even if you think that's a little crazy, they're still viewed as a top big-time team. They were struggling with Northern Iowa. The Lions are going to go into that game. Every guy on their team is we're fucking in the NFL too. Now, by where it gets outrageous is by middle of the season when you're just well, we got 2 wins. It's week 10. But week 1, the Jags won last year with the Colts. Is a pretty good example because by the end of the season, the Colts were an 11-win team and just excellent, right? I mean, they were a powerhouse squad. If they played the Jags 10 times, they're winning 9.5 of them. But week 1s can get weird just because the team throws a kitchen sink. You have new coordinators. You have a new head coach. Now, they got Jared Goff. I just have a hard time seeing the Niners not kicking their ass.
Yeah,
the Lions are just not good.
It's the biggest got-to-have-it game in the sense that it would be It would be a bigger upset, I think, it'd be a bigger upset than Cowboys over Bucs. Not because,
yes.
I mean, the Bucs are, Super Bowl fit, but the Cowboys, if Dak Prescott's throwing it to Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott's running for a touchdown, you go, okay, right? Even the Bears over the Rams.
What if I told you Khalil Mack had 5 sacks or something?
It would.
Right?
I mean, it would hurt because it's wait, we just traded the immobile guy so we could get Stafford in here and be more explosive. So that one would hurt, and that one's on Sunday Night Football. But still, Lions are just the worst team of those 3: Cowboys, Bears, Lions. And it's against the guy. It just so happens that their quarterback is Jared Goff, who you have. Yeah. You've got his number. And Kyle Shanahan, you lose to Dan Campbell. You can't have that, right? So, and does that mean that it means one of two things: either you're not scoring, or this Lions offense is scoring against DeMeco Ryans in his debut as defensive coordinator. So it'd be the worst loss of week 1, I think. I mean, the Chiefs losing to the Browns would obviously, okay, whatever. The Browns have one of the favorites for Super Bowl odds if you look at their odds.
They played them last year in the playoffs. As I remember, it kind of got close. They kind of hung in there toward the end of the game. The Browns,
Minnesota
the Browns a 13-win team.
Minnesota just might not be good.
That'd be bad.
Yep. That won't be bad.
The difference, though, is The Niners are one of the betting favorites in the league to represent the NFC. They're tied with the best odds to win the division. Like you cannot lose to a team. You just can't lose to this team. You just can't, because I would say if you just look at it simply, the other teams in your division are playing the Lions, right? Because I think you play the AFC or the NFC North. I would expect all four NFC West teams to be the Lions. So if any team that loses to the Lions, that's a swing game for all the other teams in the division. Would you agree with that statement?
Yep.
Like the Packers, who knows? That could be 2-2, right? Even the Bears, I bet the Bears get a win or two, right? But the Lions, I can't envision any of these teams losing the Lions. So to me, that's the way you look at it. That's the way I look at it.
The other thing is, even if Trey Lance is not your starting quarterback yet, and we'll see how much, if at all, he's going to play against the Lions, if you lose to them, it means that there's some it is just 1 week and weird things happen in the NFL, but you start questioning their roster, right? And it's not just that you acquired Trey Lance. Even when he's not on the field, the decision to acquire him is still part of the measure of your team, because to acquire him, you didn't draft somebody else at 12, and you traded away, obviously, 2 future first-round picks. So if we watch your team and say your roster's not good enough, if there are games where you watch the Niners and you go, the roster's not good enough, and we'll get to kind of their expectations here in a second. Well, you gave up one of the ways that you improve your roster in order to get Trey Lance, right? The way you get the best players you can get, there's 2 ways. It's the draft and it's free agency. You gave up one of the ways. So if your roster doesn't look good enough, that's a problem. That puts more pressure on Trey Lance to be good, because you drafted him because you believe he can elevate your roster. And now you are, in some ways, by acquiring him, you are, I don't want to say handicapping his future, but he's not going to have first rounders on his team in 2022 and 2023, right?
Yeah.
So it's like your roster, while it's good, and we think it's pretty good for a rookie especially, if you were to lose to the Lions, put it this way, can you lose to the Lions and the only thing we say after the game was everything was great except Garoppolo? No. Jimmy Garoppolo can be average, and you should still win this game.
To me, the only way you could lose to the Lions in an acceptable manner would be in early December, and have an unreal record, and it's just your shit the bed game of the year, right? Remember the Niners did the year they went to the Super Bowl, they lost to the Falcons. Remember that when Julio scored the game-winning touchdown? Ultimately, it didn't matter, and the Falcons were awful. Actually, I think that Falcons team got hot the second half of the season. It's kept Dan Quinn for the next year, even though he ended up getting fired. But it was a kick in the dick loss, but at the end of the day, it didn't. They were at the time. Remember, they had a little cushion, and that cushion got a little closer. But they were, they'd started 8-0. That you want to avoid that loss at all times, but it does happen to a lot of teams all over the league, right? I think the Rams last year lost to the Jets. Remember, or maybe the Giants. I think it was the Giants, maybe the Jets. I don't know, but they lost to a really shitty team. You can have it late in the season if you are good. You cannot. In this division, and expect to win it and lose this game. Ultimately, the Colts didn't win the division last year. The Titans did, and I bet they lost to a team that won 1 game.
That was their win.
1 game. To me, if the Jags had won 5, it'd be okay, well, that's not what they went 1-15. If you lose the division and you lost to the 1-15 team and you're an 11-win team, that one's hard to stomach, isn't it?
Yeah. If you lose to the team that's drafting first the next round with their own pick.
Now, I don't think the Lions would be a 1-win team, but 3 wouldn't be crazy. I could see 3 and 14. I could see them really struggling. I could see them being bad and being okay with it. I think they kind of want to bottom out. They're almost throwing Jared Goff out there to the wolves. Have at it, kid.
Right. We're not going to draft a quarterback and put him on this team right now. They go
now
Lions schedule.
He's getting paid a lot of money.
What? How? Were the Lions good last year and I missed it? Listen to their schedule. Niners, Packers, obviously, Ravens, Bears, Vikings, Bengals, okay, Rams, Eagles, Steelers, Browns, Bears, Vikings, Broncos, Cardinals, Falcons, Seahawks, Packers.
Could they win 2 games, honestly? I mean, it kind of feels that way just hearing you say that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Minnesota.
Guy, you get your ass kicked so bad. Like, you're not just when you're just getting your ass kicked every week, all of a sudden you're just going to beat the Bengals. Like, who knows, right? You might just be tired. You might just be bruised and battered. You know? Is Jared Goff going to start all 17 games for these guys?
Who else is on the? Who else is there? Who's their backup quarterback?
I don't know. He has been pretty durable. Like, I don't think he's. He had that thumb injury is the only major injury I can think of him having really in his career. But that's got to be
David Blau.
Well, good luck, buddy.
Blau. All right. Well, all right. So we usually like to build it up as the week goes along. This week, part of the point of this conversation. This week, our lock of the week. This is not the official pick. It's gonna be hard for it not to be Niners. The only reason, the thing when you said earlier, wait until the last minute to make a pick. It's like, well, was that line gonna be 9 by kickoff?
Honestly, I'd probably like the Niners any number under like 14. I know week 1's a little weird, but that line would have to be pretty big for me to get off the scent. Yeah. When I just look at the slate.
I know. It's hard to pick other games.
Like, there's not like a Chiefs-Bengals, right? There's not that game. The Texans, right, Colts or something where you're just like, okay, I'll hammer this at 10.
As Solomon Jets on YouTube says, somebody's got to end the season with 2 wins. Why not the Lions?
I know. It's probably them.
We always, instead of doing like season predictions on wins, we should do the opposite where you just pick losses. Like, I've got this team at 14 losses. That's that.
Who do you think is going to be Who's going to be? If I think most people think the Texans are going to be the worst team in the league.
I know it's the obvious pick, but I think it's the obvious pick for good reason.
Who would you put second?
I'd
have to throw the Lions in there.
The Jags got a shot. Ring. I think the Jags got a shot.
I feel like they have a little talent. Like, couldn't Lawrence and Laviska get enough to get to like 3?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe not.
You would think. No, I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm, but
if Jamar Chase cannot catch, they could be terrible.
Oh my God!
They could be really bad.
What is going on?
What if Burrow's just a little hesitant on the late? Like, they could be really terrible. What if that coach is just not a head coach? Sometimes that just happens. You're just like, oh yeah, it just turns out like that guy's never going to be another head coach again, and it just is a disaster.
Yeah.
Like, you just look back at his career and he wins a total of like 8 games in 3 years. You're like, that guy exists, right? Every, 5-6 years, like a human like that happens. Right. It does feel like he's on pace to be that.
Who doesn't get Pat Shurmur gets another shot. Like, maybe he ends up back with, be on McVay's staff.
You'd think, yeah.
John, before we move any further, I'm putting up on the screen now the leaderboard from the Ham FedEx Cup Championship in our DraftKings League. This is a huge time to get in the Haber Middlecoff DraftKings League. It is linked below in the YouTube if you're watching this YouTube live, which you should also like right now, by the way. Or if you're listening to the podcast, it's in that description. Congratulations to BCM 2332, who won first place, $450. Jay Hogan, $360 for second. Raiders 18, $270 for third. On and on. Real Tony Cervoni finished fourth with $180. Last play, I'm not going to name everybody, but the top 10 all won. Including $72 to 10th place. So we got a big game. This is a big week. I don't know if can I create the game Sunday for this week? We're going to do Sunday only next week. It won't include the Thursday or the Monday game. DraftKings promo code HAM.
I like that a lot. Download the DraftKings app. The first NFL Sunday of the season, guy. It is here. Football is here. To me, the only question is, do we go 200 people? Is week 1 the buzz? I think we've done that before for the Masters, and it filled up. We're a football show, so if we can do it for the Masters, you'd think we'd be able to do it week 1. I don't know if that would be a weekly thing, but who knows? I don't even know. You think 200 is risky? Because it's simple. For those of you that have not played, you're talking to 2 daily fantasy experts. Not that we win a lot, though Haberman did win a lot of money once upon a time in the PGA Championship. But we love daily fantasy because it's incredible. You just take $50,000 and you put them all under the salary cap. It's really easy. Download the DraftKings app now. Use the code HAM. This week, new customers get a shot at $1 million top prize and compete for millions of dollars in prizes across all contests. Here's the other thing. Once you download the app and use the promo code HAM, you can get in our game. But if you're like, God, I think my lineup's pretty sweet, you can just enter like $1 games, $5 games, $10 games. Like there is just an unlimited amount of games that you can just be in. Remember when you won the PGA Championship? Didn't someone send you a thing, or you looked like you would have won $10,000 or something?
In another game, I would have won $10,000. Yeah. So now I always take it and put that lineup in another game just in case.
So enter the code HAM to get a free shot at $1 million. Top prize with your first deposit. That's code HAM only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the National Football League. Minimum $5 required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Yeah, it looks like I can create the game right now for next Sunday. So we can. Maybe I shouldn't, because sometimes I make mistakes when I'm distracted and I'm making.
Yeah, I would not do it when you're on the show, because it just.
But the question is just how big do we want to go for week 1? So.
I'd be open to 200. If you're listening to this, we need you in the game. It's just that
you got to share.
You
with
have
people.
to get in the game. You got to share with people. If you're watching this, you got to get in the link. I'm cool with doing 200.
Seeing
it's
if
risky.
We can fill it. It is risky.
We got till Sunday, though. Sometimes with golf, I think where we sweat, it's like you only have till Thursday morning, and really it feels Wednesday night. You got a long time, guy. We got days on our side.
By the way, John, before we move on, Castaneda on YouTube says Keller Witherspoon got traded to the Steelers. I thought he was traded to the Seahawks.
Yeah,
Steelers.
Wrong ass team.
So. Podcast also brought to you by our friends at sleepnumber.com/ham. Sleepnumber.com/ham. Right now, John, the biggest sale of the year is going on at sleepnumber.com/ham. Like 50% off the limited edition smart bed that keeps you both effortlessly cool and comfortable and includes free premium delivery and setup. Go to sleepnumber.com/ham right now to check out the biggest sale of the year.
Wait, did you say biggest sale of the year?
I said biggest, John. And last I checked, there can't be bigger than biggest.
No, it's the biggest sale of the year. You are talking, or we are talking, but you are listening to two Sleep Number sleepers. And if I needed a bed right now and knew the biggest sale of the year was going on as a Sleep Number diehard, and Guy is too, who we get great night's sleep because of our Sleep Number bed, I would be all over that. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
What's your sleep number? We've established over the years that you like a cloud like super. You like to sink in. I like a little more structure and firmness. I'm a 60.
I do think I'm a 30. I might get harder and harder over the years. I think sometimes the soft, as you get older, you get a little stiffer. I actually think the harder bed can be better for your back. Maybe, I don't know, but I've always been.
That's the beauty of this, is like you can adjust as you go. So like I've decreased the firmness a little bit over the years.
Yeah, I've consistently been around 30. At 30, that's been my number. But maybe I'll try you out 60.
You should get a jersey that has your sleep number on it.
I should, and then for
better.
this week,
Single
but biggest. Then the name says biggest sale of the year,
yeah.
and then on the front it says sleepnumber.com/ham.
It's all about your routine. The Sleep IQ technology keeps you locked into that routine. Get the temperature down, keep the caffeine, maybe in the evening a little light. Stay hydrated, John. Biggest sale of the year. Sleepnumber.com/ham. That's sleepnumber.com. What is the holiday?
Labor Day, baby. It's for our laborers. We're laboring right now. Sunday afternoon, we're working. We are a working class show for working class people, and we're working on Labor Day. Labor Day is technically tomorrow. We're just work so hard we couldn't even wait.
Yep.
For a holiday that we don't even get.
We didn't give ourselves off Labor Day.
I don't know. I sent us emails. I didn't get a reply. Did we got Labor Day off? He said, no, bills got to be paid.
I forgot to put in my vacation.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So now you mentioned, I threw up on YouTube the Super Bowl odds right now at my bookie, by the way. The Chiefs plus 450. I'm going to hold on. Let me fill the screen and make them bigger. The Bucks at plus 550. The Packers at plus 1,000. The Bills at plus 1,200. The Ravens, the Niners, the Browns at plus 1,400. So in that sense, there is belief in them. We know they're the favorites to win their division. Yesterday, or maybe this was Saturday, Debo Samuel posted a photo of him and Trey Lance on Instagram and said, bet against us, don't know where they get their odds from. It was actually a really good photo, and I want the coat he's wearing. But
it's pretty badass coat, huh?
Yeah, custom, I'm sure. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. People think they should be good, us included, right? Not I think they're going to be good. There's a difference between I think they're going to be good and you're supposed to be good. And we know based on their actions that they think they're going to be good. They've said it, but then they also took the team they had last year, right? And that didn't succeed. And what did they do with it?
Rolled it back, baby.
Rolled it back.
They rolled it back. Listen. Players naturally say this. I bet you could find, if we just went through some of the Chiefs' Instagrams, like, people are doubting us. It's like, what? You guys have been to like 2 straight Super Bowls. It's like, I don't know if Kyle, when he has team meetings, is throwing up the MyBookie odds, because it'd be like, actually the odds are kind of in your favor, Devo. You could argue, did you say they have better Super Bowl odds, the Niners, than the Browns?
They have this. No, they have the same. The same.
14-1.
Yep, 14-1.
Well, it's like I'd say, well, Debo, this team made the playoffs last year and won a playoff game last year. That happened last year, and you have the same odds as them. So, and I think most people just assume the Browns are pretty good. What I think the Niners have, the betting odds. We talked about this when the schedules came out, and we kind of looked at the divisional odds. Well, we thought it was a little crazy that they were basically had the best, same odds with the Rams to win the division, and Seattle wasn't as good. It's like Seattle just won the division. Seattle feels like won the division several times over the last, 5-6 years. Like, they consistently do that. And the Niners had better odds. The Niners have won the division once since Harbaugh. It was kind of like, whoa. So it's like, I'd say the betting odds have been favorable. And then the way people just, I would say nationally, just random fans, people listening to this, like, most people think they're going to be pretty good. Like, I'd say it's pretty universal, right? The gambling, the normal humans, the people that talk about them for a living, their own team. Like, there's not many people, like, if Jared Goff wanted to tweet that, I'd be like, okay, right? If Deshaun, I guess Deshaun Watson is he's not even technically on the team, but like some dude on the Jags or Texans, like, people are sleeping on us. I'd be like, yeah, they are. That is not the case with this team, man. I actually think you could argue the opposite. They're kind of getting anointed when just in their history, they've had the one moment, which was a big deal. And it's why whenever I'm not picking on these guys, but sometimes Raider fans, use the Niner fans. They're like, oh, everyone's blowing Kyle. He's had one good year. Well, yeah, if your one good year is like making a wild card and getting bounced, I agree. You can't, like, that only carries so much weight. His one good year, they were leading the Super Bowl like 5 minutes to go, and their team was unreal.
Yeah,
they had 2 playoff games. But you could argue just they had 2 playoff games.
And they look like
the shit.
And they look like the best team in the league, right? For more than half the season.
Yeah, they swept the Rams. They beat Seattle on the road to win the division back when pre-COVID and there were fans. I'd say that was one of the biggest, best Niner games of the last post Harbaugh.
Which one?
Obviously I'd say the Super Bowl is number 1. I'd argue that Seattle game, Week 17, was probably the number 2 game that season.
Yeah, I mean, just because what was on the line. The game
what was
at the
on the
Saints
line
that year was also huge.
Yeah, the Saints
coming
game was
off
massive,
the Ravens.
but
that was coming off the Ravens' loss, right?
Think of what was on the line in Seattle. Seattle, it was for the Division 1 and 2, like it was either get the 1 seed or be the 5 seed. And then the way that game, I remember before you and I did the podcast, obviously we went live after the game. I guess back then we just recorded it and then put it out, not on YouTube.
Idiots.
It was pre-YouTube. But I vividly remember we talked about this. I think we were both pacing around. They were going to lose. Like there was no doubt in my mind, like, God, the Niners had this incredible season and they're going to be the 5th seed. It was crazy. And then they weren't when this dude who I'd never heard of, Dan Buns, a.k.a. Dre Greenlaw, makes it's one of the craziest endings in the history of the franchise. Like that was a remarkable game. But my point is that I've seen Kyle's high end. Like we saw it with the team. And this high end wasn't like, oh, they got to a wild card and got bounced. No, they just cruised to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I think when people jump back on the bandwagon, it's because okay, they think this guy who leads the team, it's a coaching league, and the team, which is really talented because a lot of those guys were on that team. Then they've added some pieces since, and they added a quarterback, right? So it's just, I think a lot of people are betting on these guys. I mean, hell, I think me and you feel pretty confident, like lock of the week, Week 1. Like you wouldn't say that just some team you didn't totally trust.
No.
They're getting treated Week 1 like a lock playoff team.
But part of it's their opponent.
I know, but if you were, let's just say I'm trying to pick it up. Let's say it was Bears or Vikings, Lions. That number's probably 5, 4.5.
Those teams are not.
It's
if
not 7.
If it was Rams if it was Rams Lions, it'd be 7.5.
Lions. But that's my point. Like, they're getting just treated just like the Rams.
Yeah.
Coming off a 6-win season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just all of that stuff. It's what they have said about their own team based on, A, what they've said, which is they believe they're contenders, but B, like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, on and on and on, McGlinchey and Tomlinson and Brunskill and Mostert and Juszczyk, and they didn't make a decision to bring Jimmy back, right? They didn't financially. They could have walked away from Jimmy Garoppolo, and they didn't. And Armstead and Kinlaw and Bosa and Greenlaw and Warner and Verrett and Tart and Ward and K'Wan Williams, like, obviously you don't ever have 100% the same team, but it's the same team with some tweaks. Alex Mack.
I mean, think about this. One of the better players in our adult life for the 49ers, Joe Staley, who was just a consistent, winning, high-level player, they upgraded. Think how crazy that is. They upgraded Williams. Joe Staley. Like, it would have been, if I would have said, hey, Joe Staley's going to retire, what's going to happen to left tackle? You'd say more than likely they downgrade, right? Or they have to get really lucky. They just nail a draft pick. Somehow they had Trent Williams kind of fall into their lap. Now, they had to pay him this year, but it's like he's just a better player than Joe Staley.
They would argue, he's a returner, but we did have to go get him to bring him back. Right? He was
we had to pay him 60, so 50, 80, 60 million or whatever they gave him. I guess you could view him 65.
as a free agent addition on this team. But
yeah, they paid him a lot of money.
But they look at it like this is obviously Ebukam, right? We could go through like the guys they added, but they believe the team they had last year, if it was healthy, what did they think the 2020 team would have done if it was healthy? They think they were a Super Bowl contender in 2020. That's what they think.
Yeah, and I'd probably say just they weren't as good, it felt like. But if Jimmy had stayed healthy, even losing Nick Bosa, they probably get the 9 wins, right? And hell, as we saw, the Bears made the playoffs last year at 8-8. That's the thing that was crazy about the NFC. Here's the thing, guy. If you just factor in last year, the AFC was clearly a lot better than the NFC. It took 11 and it took 8. I do think the AFC does feel just a little stronger. I just think it feels like the NFC is like, if you're good, like you can just make some more hay, right? There's just some teams that are beatable on your schedule.
It's kind of the saving grace of being in the NFC West, is that it hurts that it's the best division, but you don't have to win the division, and you don't have to be the second place team in the division to be in the playoffs.
And this year they get the Lions, they get the Jags, they get the Texans, they get the Bengals.
Well, it's you don't get, if you're supposed to be good, how many opportunities do you get like this from a scheduling standpoint? Not many. Because if you're consistently good, you never get a fourth place schedule.
Well, one big swing this year, obviously because everyone gets to play the Lions, is that they do play another powerhouse division that put 3 teams in the playoffs last year, and they get the Bengals. The other 3 teams play the better team. So even if you like, I think I could see the Steelers coming back to earth a little bit this year.
Well, but they're just.
But a Steelers back to earth is not 4. It's 8-9 or 9-8, right? Like that's they are not a back to earth like they suck team.
No.
And the Ravens and the Browns. So like that, all of a sudden, is that a swing where, you know, the Niners win and maybe one of the other teams wins, right? Like, so you get some things built in to take advantage of if you are good. Because if I told you that the Packers or Tampa Bay had the Niners schedule, I think most people would say, yeah, it's 15 wins. Like just something that you feel 100% confident on. Because there's the one thing in the back of your mind is, well, like, do they truly know their quarterback? Like, is this 2-quarterback thing going to work? If Jimmy does get hurt, is Trey truly ready to rock and roll? Is Nick Bosa and George Kittle, like, are we just getting 34 games out of the 2 of them? Hell,
yeah, health is a big question with this team.
And health just with the top guys, right? Does George Kittle and Nick Bosa are they missing a lot of games again?
I mean,
George missed a lot of games last year.
I'd put Ayuk and Debo in that conversation based on how important they are to the team.
Yeah, it's very top-heavy at the skill guys. Because those guys, the Sando article kind of questioned their skill guys. I actually think that if you told me those 2 guys play 17 games, which obviously I'm not assuming that's going to happen by any means, they're fine at receiver if those 2 guys play every game, right? Those 2 guys can play. Now, they're not Julio and A.J. Brown.
Yeah, but with Kittle mixed in.
They're fine. They're fine. And the running backs
That's the part that kind of skews it, is it with Kittle mixed in.
Yeah, you got to factor him in the passing game.
So
and the coordinator. Like part of it is like, you're like Tyreek Hill. Who are the other wide receivers the Chiefs have? Well, yeah, they have Kelsey and then the other random guys all haul ass. So, and their coach. schemes all these guys all over the place. Like when you have a great schemer, it's really like once you give a good coach like multiple elite players on offense, it's not really fair, right? Once you give a team, like if you do give Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay 3 elite wide receivers and a good quarterback, like it's not a fair fight. Like thank God the Rams over the years or even now, like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, that's solid, but that's it's not great.
I think
like those are 2 best wide receivers.
And I think you really feel it with defenses, right? You feel it with
when you give sweet defensive coordinators, sweet players.
When you look at like Nick Saban's defense, right? When you look at Dick LeBeau's defense,
Remember Fangio with the Niners?
Fangio's defense was just because Fangio, it's proven, is a fantastic defensive coach, and the talent was. Are these the 4 greatest linebackers ever assembled? And then you combine those 2 things, and it's just devastating.
Remember
because they affect the way the game feels.
I remember Nagy's first year, and they trade for Khalil Mack with Fangio. That they had the best defense in the league. It was like, oh, this isn't fair. You're right. The defense, when you give them the Jimmies and the Joes with like an elite coordinator, it's on like Donkey Kong. I mean, honestly, kind of put Robert Saleh on the map. No one was going to offer him a head coaching job the first 2 years. Then they upgraded personnel, right? Richard became healthy. They draft Nick Bosa. Fred Warner kind of became a star. And then it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then he just became in the vernacular of like, this guy's a head coach.
Right.
But it was really, I mean, they added sweet players.
But no defense has ever been great without good players.
No. What do you think about the historic defenses? They're mostly all minimum multiple Hall of Famers. Right? I mean,
great teams,
part of the deal.
It's like the players matter.
Yeah, they do.
Players matter. Did you see? Speaking of great defensive players, did you get much chance to scout Kayvon Thibodeau this weekend? I just so badly wanted to play against Ohio State, the defensive end who some people think could be the number 1 overall pick from Oregon, who had basically a hurry on his first series. Somebody else got the sack. Then he had almost cut Jake Haener in half. Fresno State's quarterback forced a fumble, led to a touchdown. He looked incredible, and then he got his ankle rolled up on, and he was in a boot, and X-rays are negative. But hopefully he plays this week against Ohio State because it's like this is the Khalil Mack game potentially.
Well, think about this. Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa are 2 examples of guys that went number 2 in the draft. But the reason they went 2 is because there was a quarterback. Now it's only 1 weekend, and we talked about this over definitely recently, but just kind of mentioned this. It does feel there's a lot of hype on this quarterback class, but it doesn't quite feel there's a lot of substance behind it. And this week I was like, I'm not kind of out. Like
you're just trying to
North
find
Carolina
guys,
guy, Rattler. It does not feel like a good quarterback draft. And remember, there were like articles written from the anonymous execs. They're like, we weren't that confident with this group coming, this next group, right? That we kind of had a good little run here, and it might take a while, right? It might be a year off. If it is, there's no quarterback, and based on week 1, there's definitely no number 1 overall quarterback in this class. How is he not the number 1 overall pick? You'd know more than me. Like I've never heard anything about the person or a good guy, but I give him credit. You get hurt, like he was back on the field cheering on his guys. It felt like he was kind of a big part.
I think they tried to take him and bring him back. Yeah, no, I've heard good things about the guy. Like I think one thing that was impressive about him was he came in as like a number 1 prospect. Everyone was talking about him. They did not start him right away. Like they didn't give him a start. He did not even start their spring game his freshman year. He did not start until like halfway through the season, which sometimes you'd be like, it's kind of a bad sign. Shouldn't this guy be an impact? But they didn't do it. He handled it really well. They starting him as the season went on, and he was one of the best defensive players in the league by the end of that regular season. Then last year he rolled out, was a stud, and then handled his business this year and has looked exactly as advertised right away in that game. But it's all, like it was for Khalil Mack when he played Ohio State. Like that's a game that really solidifies you. The beauty for him is he doesn't have to be physically he's exactly what you'd want. Like if you couldn't watch any film on anybody, you might draft him number 1, right? Just based on his size.
Well, he could really underachieve, and he'd still go. Like I'm talking, just play terrible. Would he still go top 15? Yeah. Let's just say he was not good, like not even doing shit.
Yeah,
right?
Based on previous production and body, and I think people are just going to like he's a high level guy. So, yeah. So I just hope he plays this week and is somewhere he's probably not going to be. You're not in a boot on one Saturday and you're 100% by the next Saturday, but hopefully he's close enough that he can give him some snaps.
On your point on how you just feel him, I think
the
him
game
and
changed
Sewell,
when he went out. For people who didn't, sorry, John, for people who didn't see the game, I think they were gonna. I'm not gonna say roll, but the game just Fresno State was able to do whatever it wanted offensively after he went out.
It was like 21-3, I think, early on, and it felt like, God, this could get a little out of hand. Panay Sewell's brother's Noah. Is that his first name?
Yeah.
Those two guys, obviously Thibodeau was in there a lot less, but those felt like these guys are just on different levels. Like when Sewell hits somebody, they get throttled back.
Rocked.
And those two guys just give you a chance to, like, obviously, would they have, let's just say worst case scenario, he's out this week. Even if he was in, it's a big moment for his like NFL draft stock. Like if he could have 3 or 4 sacks, even if they lost by 20, it would solidify him probably as the clear number 1 guy in the class. But like after you watch the quarterback, you're like, I don't even think even if he was healthy, Oregon probably hang this week. But it would be like it'd be a game that every college scout would be talking about. It'd be a game that everyone would be talking about. Like it's fun to watch sweet players against the sweetest players, right? I mean, that's why college football is fun.
I think you just hit on it though. While you're making a point about him, but it really is more his position is solidified. When they talk to the Oregon staff, they're gonna find out good things about him. He's gonna produce. Hopefully, he's healthy, and that's not even a question. And he has production in his history. What it's really about this week is winning the football game. That's what it's about, beating Ohio State, right? Like it's less about can he become a number 1 pick? Because like you said, if he stopped playing right now and retired from college football and just started preparing for the draft, he still might be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, like
if he doesn't play against Ohio State, he still might be the number 1 pick.
Like if Oregon started like 0-5, or it's just something. I'm just saying if they did, and he left school.
Right.
And, everyone would have an opinion or whatever, but he's like, what am I doing this for? We're way out of it. He would, like, that wouldn't be a crazy move. Like, we saw a lot of guys do that last year. And the one question will be, though, freak deal, right? Someone rolled up on him. It's not like he
was
has
just
a
standing,
history
the
of
play was kind of over, and it was one of those where, if you're watching the video, his leg is just straight, and someone just kind of bends into his ankle. I'm not doing a good visual, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's just injuries are a major talking point during
like a heavy guy
draft process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, you would just like to see a guy, play. You just want to see a guy on the field.
Right.
That's just NFL teams are going to want. And clearly, like, as of right now, he's not going anywhere. Their team's going to be good. I mean, he'll be back, even if he misses this week, right? So he's just going to be a lot of eyeballs on him. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to come back and not look as good, right?
Yeah, but it's also one of those.
It's already
like,
probably
everyone
pretty
knows.
established.
Everyone, if it's like, yeah, he's back at 80% on his ankle, and you're just solid, even if you're not great, you'll get credit for that too. You'll get credit for being solid, even if you're not 100%. Right? Because you're playing through injury, and it'll be one of those like, oh, you know what teams love, even though he didn't have it, he laid everything out there for him. He knew he could have walked away, and just taken his United Airlines money. And he's like, no, I'm doing this I'm a part of this team, and we're trying to win football games.
Feels like I'll increase that direct deposit there. How do you say his first name?
Kayvon Thibodeau. How did you watch Bryce Young?
Cool name. The name looks sweet on the back.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
The
name looks badass.
How about the guy? I'll get to that in a minute. Bryce Young looks pretty good. Maybe he's the next guy.
He looks incredible.
27 of 38, 344, 4 touchdowns. Alabama rolled Miami.
They feel a little bit like John Wooden. I mean, we didn't experience John Wooden in our life, but everything we read about him, it's just like, this wasn't really that fair of a fight. That's like they're at the point now. What are we even doing? Because they lose Tua, Mac Jones back to back, and it feels just as a college player, he's more dynamic than either one of those guys. And those guys were clearly the 2 best quarterbacks that Saban had ever had. And now he feels like if Tua and Jalen Hurts had been a combined player, that's what he felt like to me. Just run around making plays, but like in a Bama way. It wasn't Johnny Football was just kind of playing out of his ass. Some of those type players. That is not what this guy felt.
Was he out of his
pocket?
Very
under control. Was he out of the pocket?
Was Johnny Football out of his pocket? Or was he in his pocket?
Yeah. I don't follow
Somebody
the
can
joke
help
there.
me with that. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Did we give him his flowers? Is that
We
one of
gotta
those?
give his
Is that
flowers,
like a
Joe.
thing going on?
We gotta give his
Gotta
flowers.
give him
God.
I'll give Bryce Young
Enough with give him
his flowers. He looked badass. And they just have names that you've never heard of. Like, he threw a couple balls to Menchie. You're like, oh, I know Menchie. But then these other three guys, because you don't know, like, the Najee Harris waiting in the wings or the next Jerry Jeudy, you're like, oh, yeah, they all kind of look like that again.
If you had stopped following sports after the national championship game last year and came back, you would have thought, oh, Devontae Smith came back to school. There's one guy who looks like Devontae Smith just flying down the sideline. Long, skinny legs.
Listen, we make fun of these guys. I mean, we don't much anymore, but they were just like in the NFL world, got made fun of a lot. Doug Marrone and Bill O'Brien.
He's the O-line
Those
coach.
guys were NFL head coaches last year, and they are now his offensive coordinator and his offensive line coach. That's pretty crazy.
It's nuts.
When has a college program ever had two guys on staff that the previous year were NFL head coaches? Not one, two NFL head coaches the previous year. Both guys have won playoff games, too. That's pretty nuts. It'd be one thing. It's like, well, yeah, this guy was just a one and done or something. Both guys. Bill O'Brien went to the playoffs a lot. What's his name? Won multiple playoff games the one year when they went to the AFC Championship game. But it's not like those guys are like.
Bill O'Brien's over 500 as a coach, right?
Has to be. Well, we got fired early on last year, so he didn't get all those L's. That probably helped.
We didn't give him all those. I don't mind all.
Yeah,
What kills me about give him those flowers is like people say it on like people are like, what a play! You got to give him his flowers. Shut up. All right.
Bill O'Brien
Bill O'Brien was
is 54 and 52.
Oh, I got 52 and 48.
Maybe they are factoring in what I'm reading, the 4 playoff losses.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's
what'd you say?
he's 52 and 48 in the regular season. I said 52. I said 54 and 42. So he's 2 and 4 in the playoffs.
So he's over 500.
So he has multiple playoff wins.
Over 500.
Won multiple NFL playoff wins. He's won the division. He's a division champ in the NFL 4 times. Think about that. That's now division's been a little up and down, but that's not nothing, is it? 4 times.
What's Doug Marone's?
I think he gets shit on probably a little too much. Bad GM, but coaching, it was not nearly as bad as the way people talk.
Marone 40 and 61 in the NFL, so not as good. But I mean, bad
Jags.
Bills, Jags. Remember, he walked away from the Bills with a text message. Wasn't that the deal? Wasn't it something like that? Refused.
Yeah, and they had to pay him, or was it Syracuse he walked away from? He walked away. Maybe it was the Bills. Yeah, maybe it was the Bills, and then he knew he was going to get the Jags job.
Well, and then
But I thought he went to the Jags as this.
Yeah, but and then
know.
you're right.
I
Didn't he
forget.
bail? Didn't he like walk away from Syracuse to take the Bills job too? I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he was a Syracuse head coach. Then he was the Bills head coach. He did take a year off, and then he came back with the Jags.
Oh. Nonetheless,
He has a bizarre career.
yeah. It's wild. Before we get to Chip John, Manscaped.com. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. It is, it's game week. It's game week. Get your body right. This is a pubic service announcement. The news we've all been waiting for, John. I can't complain about people saying give them their flowers and then read that line. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is now available in the USA and Canada. When you get the promo code HAM, when you use it, you get 20% off and free shipping.
How do you beat that guy? How do you beat that? It's got an LED light. It's waterproof. It obviously has a little USB charger. Can't recommend it enough. 20% off, free shipping, promo code HAM, manscaped.com. The last box they sent us had nose trimmers. As guys mentioned, it is not safe to use tweezers and pluck those long nose hairs because you get infections. You do the nose, put that bad boy right in there, a little buzz, and all of a sudden you clean out any stragglers you got, hanging out.
Yep.
So they
Clear
also
those
got
nasal
crop
pipes.
preservers, ball deodorants. They got it all. Check it out, manscaped.com. Promo code HAM, 20% off, free shipping.
20% off free shipping. Code HAM at manscaped.com. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Do it.
Promo code HAM. Patrick on YouTube, Patrick said Mac taught Billy O the playbook, which is funny, but that's not the one I was looking for. Somebody said Billy O's nickname is way too cool for Billy O. Jay Boogie says, Niners sign Josh Norman, give John Lynch his flowers. Yeah, man, you just got to – everybody's getting their flowers, man. Everybody's getting their flowers.
Billy O is a solid just name. Oh, where's Billy O? It does work. You're right. Is Billy O cooler than Bill O'Brien? If Bill O'Brien was like – if Kyle Shanahan was like, yeah, he's won the division 4 times, won a couple playoff games, like you'd be like, oh, yeah. Like that's a pretty good – I just think his resume is way better than all the shit everyone
what he did
talks
at Penn
about
State
because he made some terrible
impressive.
trades. He
Bad
took
GM.
over for Sandusky and Joe. I mean, I think he won 9 games with McGloin.
He put McGloin in the league.
I know. It was incredible. I went to a practice. I went to his first spring practice.
I remember
his first spring. I went to a practice, and I remember me and my buddy driving back to the Eagles facility. I was like, that was really impressive. Like that was just – and at the time, McGloin, they had like 2 other guys, was the 3rd stringer. He ended up winning the job starting – on a team that I don't think people quite comprehend just as time goes on how crazy Penn State and Philly, which is obviously you talk Eagles, Penn State, there's a large percentage of people in Philadelphia. Like Penn State's like we talk about that, not we, but like if you and I did this show in Philly, we talk Eagles, we would talk a lot of Penn State. Like they are like a major talking point. That rocked everything. And he took the job and he started winning. Remember, he turned down when speaking of Chip Kelly, when Chip Kelly got the Eagles job? He got the job because Bill O'Brien had turned it down at Penn State. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie offered him the job. Bill O'Brien said no.
Wow.
The next year, and I think part of it was he had just taken over the Penn State job. So he felt like, remember, he wasn't there that long.
No.
I think 3 years. But he didn't want to just up and leave, even though he up and left the next year. But that was... in 2013, think about that. In January 2013, 2 of the hottest names by far in the country for NFL jobs were Bill O'Brien and Chip Kelly. Like they were, any team with an opening. Remember Chip was like fucking with the Browns, like not even interviewing him. Remember the previous year Chip had accepted the Bucs job and then turned it down like 2 days later, like Billy Donovan style kind of. I guess Billy Donovan actually signed the job and then he quit.
Yeah.
The Orlando Magic. Remember that?
Yep.
Chip, I think Chip just verbally accepted it, and then he like slept on it. He's like, that was a bad idea. then he pulled out.
Well, he might be back now, John. Look at you, that shit in the blue shirt. First of all, how cool is just UCLA LSU Saturday night, 70,000 people at the Rose Bowl? Like that was a point in television, wasn't it?
I thought that was the coolest game of the day. I'm not saying it was like the best game. I thought it was just. Now I'm biased. But that game was sweet. And LSU might turn out to be a 6-win team. And, Chip clearly has a pretty solid squad. Now, I thought the Tigers were going to kick his ass. I was rooting going into the game for the Tigers to win.
And I remember on the podcast,
you did not.
I did not. I thought they could win.
Yeah, you did not. And a lot of people did. I think a lot of people thought UCLA was better. I just thought, like, I don't even, his coaching. You watched, like, they manhandled them. They kind of shoved them around. It was pretty nuts, actually. I'm shocked. Listen, any team Power 5 teams play each other. It's not that crazy, but they kicked their ass. Like you got to give Chip his flowers a little bit, right? That was a. Is that a little bit of I'm back?
Yeah, I think the big part of it was that this is not Chip Kelly's first year. It's his 4th, and he has a 5-year contract, and there's a new athletics director. And so guys in college, we talked about this the other day, you don't coach on the last year of your contract. So this is the year. This is the make or break year for him. And there are a lot of people based on their roster who have been around the program who think that they were going to be good this year. There were a lot of people who thought they were going to be better last year, and they were, and then their record didn't really reflect it. I think to look the way they did, where it was clear pretty early in that game, right? Whatever LSU is, maybe they're bad enough that Ed Orgeron gets fired this year. Whatever they are, you have to I also think this gets a little. It's one thing. Teams change over the course of a year. So if you beat a team week 1 and then they turn out to be bad. The team that loses week 7 isn't necessarily the team that week 1 was a top 16 team, right?
Yeah.
And because I remember we'd always talk about this around Fresno State. Like, if Fresno State beat Nebraska and then Nebraska was bad, it'd be like, see, Nebraska was bad. And it was like, well, maybe one of the reasons Nebraska struggled is because they lost to Fresno State, and that had an effect on their team. You know, that's you look for things, John. Illinois wasn't that bad until the Dogs beat them. But my point is, here's what I knew watching that game. UCLA was going to have to earn it watching that game against LSU, right? They're down 7-0. They score. It's tied. They score again. It's 14-7. LSU, number 1, name is Butte. Like, he scored that big touchdown.
He's sweet.
He's sweet. Kind of looks like Jamar Chase. But, like, you were going to have to earn it. And the thing to me that stands out about UCLA, and I saw it week 0, but I'm like, it's Hawaii. I don't quite know what to make of this. And you saw it from the jump against LSU, like they were blitzing. They were flying around on defense. Like, to me, they look pretty good on defense.
I agree. I weren't they the youngest team in the country a couple years, like Chip's first year, second year? Didn't he just like play every freshman or something?
Yeah, and now they're a veteran team. They got this guy Zach Charbonnet who transferred from Michigan. Doesn't he look sweet? 24, the running back.
Yeah, to me, I think when you think Chip Kelly, like just the average guy, not someone who truly like watched every Oregon snap, but when you think Chip Kelly, you just think like this innovative, progressive, new style offense. So I think in a lot of people's mind, they'd be like passes, right? That's just what dynamic offensive coaches do, passes. He's actually, when you truly think about his Oregon teams, the craziest part was, now the Pac-12 was pretty shitty for a couple years when he was taken off. Right, Pete left. Harbaugh. Harbaugh was just his team was a bad matchup against Chip, just the way they played, even though they had some great games. But the Washington schools were bad. Guy, they would have like 3-play drives, all runs. It'd be like 3 plays, 90 yards, touchdown, all runs.
Remember,
he ran the shit out of the ball. He's a running coach.
Yes.
Like that's
they were
he
top
wants to
5
run
rushing team in the country.
Yeah, and you just watch him, like if they can gash you running it with his like kind of crazy run scheme, which he's an elite run game caller, they're going to be pretty tough to beat. And as we saw yesterday, now they're in the South, which is clearly, I mean, it was a rough day for the North, right? It was a lot of, Washington lost to Montana, Cal lost to Nevada, Oregon State lost to Purdue.
Yeah, Washington State lost at home to Utah State.
Yeah, there's some bad
L's.
L's.
Stanford looked pretty bad against Kansas State.
Arizona State won?
Arizona State won on Thursday against Southern Utah.
Played.
Utah beat Weber State on Thursday. Colorado beat Northern Colorado on Friday.
So all the South teams won.
SC beat
San Jose State.
Arizona lost to BYU.
Okay.
But SC won. And
Arizona's one of the worst. Might be the worst team in the conference. Well,
Arizona should. Yeah, I mean, I think coming in, people think that. Yeah, we'll see if Washington State. I don't know, but
like I think there's, and listen, like UCLA has no business ever being 12-0, but if Chip somehow this year, I don't know who else. I guess they play Fresno State.
They play Fresno
who beat
State
them a couple years ago.
Yep. But now UCLA's on a bye. UCLA's 2-0, and they got a bye now.
Well, Fresno gets Cal Poly this week, so let's say they win that game. Is there a chance they go 10-2 this year? Like they could have a really good record, right?
Well, obviously they played LSU, but if you would take in the game UCLA played and just put it against any of the other Pac-12 opponents from week 1, it was still the most impressive game anybody played, regardless of opponent. USC, I thought was pretty. USC looked solid.
I saw a lot of people shitting on them. Like San Jose State, it's not like some joke anymore. Like they were fine.
No, San Jose State actually has 2 years ago put a major emphasis into like interior JC transfers on the defensive line.
I think the Mountain West I've been texting you. I think the Mountain West this year is really good.
Well, Utah State clearly is better, right? They were a mess. They got the guy that he hired from Arkansas State, but
Nevada's legit. Fresno looks awesome. I know Boise lost kind of a heartbreaker to UCF, but they're clearly going to be solid. Like that conference. If I'm in the Pac-12, I'd probably get out of the business of playing those teams.
Yeah,
because
BYU's 4 more times on the schedule, by the way, this year.
So I would get away from that.
That might be coming.
Yeah, I think it probably is. But I give Chip credit as a hater of Chip. Like, listen, I wanted Ed O to win, but Chip.
I did not.
Ed had an incredible season 2 years ago. Like, Chip outclassed him. And Ed has better players.
I don't know if
Chip would Chip would, a lot of the guys on LSU would start for them, right?
I don't know if I said this the other day, but there is just a fundamental coaching matchup in that game that UCLA had the advantage in head coach.
Chip versus their defense.
Yeah, not that. I mean, Ed was 6-1 in the Pac-12. He won a national championship. So I'm not. I think it's easy. I'm just saying, like, in terms of scheming, right? Chip versus Ed, like.
Oh, you're saying you're giving him credit for the year when he filled in?
Yeah.
Was he filled in for Lane?
He won a bunch of games.
Yeah, he did.
I think it's easy, like, a team wins a game and be like, just dismiss Eddie O. I don't want to dismiss Eddie O, but clearly the staff that he had when they won the national championship was a major factor. Now, that's okay. Not every coach is the schemer. Sometimes you got to be the CEO. And there are coaches who are the schemer and then transition off to being the CEO. But, I mean, it's as good as, I mean, is it the best? I was trying to think, like, the last best West Coast, Stanford dominated Wisconsin in a bowl game, regular season games, though. Oregon.
I do think beating I know they're coming off a rough year, but that program, that's, beating LSU. Like, that's a national champion coach 2 years ago. Like, that's a pretty fucking big deal.
Especially when, like, Patrick on YouTube said LSU had the hurricane to deal with, which is true. And Chip, it was the first thing Chip acknowledged after the game. Like, what that team's had to deal with this week, they didn't get to, like, spend all week at home doing their normal.
But they circumvented the hurricane in the sense that they left to Texas before the hurricane came.
But that's
right?
the point. It's like they had to displace in preparation for a game.
Not easy.
But I also think part of this is, like, it's not just how good is LSU going to be. It's just we've spent so much time on the West Coast talking about, can you just win one of these, like, headline games as a league? And with UCLA, Chip being such a lightning rod just because of how famous and how big he is, and for them to do it, Terry Donahue, I didn't know a ton about him before he died in July. He was the coach at UCLA that people loved, and he was the coach during UCLA's best years. It's kind of crazy on the West Coast. We always used to talk about Fresno State. Like, they were a sleeping giant. But if you think about the sleeping giants in the West, like, SC needs to get better. But they're not, like, everyone's aware. Like, SC is just constantly, you're talking about them all the time. I was thinking about this because I saw Joel Klatt tweeted his 5 favorite college football helmets. And to me, if you grew up in the 90s, there was one clear winner. Joel didn't have it. Florida State. I think it's like the number one. We do not talk about Florida State anymore, really. Like, SC you still talk about all the time, even though they're not what they once were, but they're what you think they should be. Florida State doesn't even get the, like, this is what Florida State should be conversation anymore, like USC does. But I think UCLA has to be the sleeping giant on the West Coast, given the location, right? It's really critical.
They've never paid that much with coaches.
I know,
they have
never
some, like,
felt
academic.
like they're all in on football.
Yeah, they've just viewed. I mean, it's different because they've been better historically than Kentucky, but like a Kentucky or a Duke, like, basketball is first. It's one of the rare Power Fives where it's, like, clear. Like, Kansas is always bad at football, but whatever. Like, Kentucky's had some moments. Obviously, Duke, even North Carolina. I thought everyone kind of anointed them, and they got their ass kicked against Virginia Tech. But it's football. The difference, though, is UCLA, like, in the 90s when we were kids, was really good at football. Yeah. And when my cousin Nick got on the team, I think in, like, 2001, I remember he always said, like, when I got there, we had been kicking Pete. Pete wasn't there yet. We had been kicking SC's ass. Like, we were kicking their ass in the 90s. And then Pete showed up, that Carson Palmer last year, and then everything changed. There's a famous story in the Meat Market book. Our buddy Joe Bernardi's dad, who was the offensive line coach for UCLA, and Ed Ogeron, who was just hired or kept on the staff for Pete Carroll, and they start butting heads, and it just obviously Pete changed it. But I'm with you. UCLA should be really good. Now, here's the one thing, like, Chip. I'll give him this. Like, he doesn't fake it. Like, his personality is his personality. I saw, like, what do you think about being ranked or not ranked? He's like, I don't care. Like, he is just very blunt and candid in a way of, like, I don't give a shit. And maybe that's refreshing, after a while. Because when you're not winning, it's like, oh, my God, fake it a little bit. But he has not pivoted. I will give him that, as someone who had, ultimately fired by the guy and had some questionable interactions. Not renewed, yeah. He has been pretty consistent, I would say.
He made
from
Middlecoff
Oregon,
work on the last year of his contract.
Oregon.
That's on Howie, John.
Philly,
that's on Howie.
49ers. Yeah, the Eagles were only giving Koff 1-year deals. It's just I had to fight for it. So I got a chip on my shoulder. I got longer deals in Fresno State as a GA, but he is true to himself. Would you agree with that? Like he's just very true to like his. It's not even a shtick, it's just his personality, which is way different than most guys.
Yeah, and it's
he's different.
The Philly thing, the Niner thing, the first 3 years in UCLA, the belief that he has in what it is that he can do and what he does, to not give the offense to somebody else year 4 and be like, all right, well, yeah, okay. It's a massive story. Now, like Patrick says, no ACC team, Pac-12 team gets in, question mark. To me, it's as simple as who's a one-loss team. Because Clemson, I said this last week, someone was going to lose that Clemson-Georgia game. I think Clemson has a better chance of coming back from it because Georgia's going to be good. Clemson could just go unbeaten in the ACC, and they'll be in the playoff. Now, no team has ever won the national championship after losing week 1, but whatever. This is not about winning the national championship. It's about getting to the playoff, and Clemson can still get there. They just now their room for error is gone. So, yeah, I mean, now if you're is LSU going to be the best team that UCLA plays this year? Time will tell. I don't know. Right? We'll see how good.
Does UCLA play Oregon?
UCLA. Where did I had my? I think.
I guess they would technically, potentially. I guess in the Pac-12 championship, but obviously you skip sometimes teams.
Yeah, I forget. So who their misses are. 1 second, I got it right here. They do play. Or
you play every team. That's a big game.
So their misses are Washington State. And
which won't matter.
Stanford. Oh, no, they play Stanford. Okay. Cal. No, they play Cal.
Which might not be good either.
No, I'm sorry.
Oregon State?
Yeah, I think it might be Oregon State. Yeah, so not ideal.
Well, to me, as long as they play Oregon, that means they have the chance to beat Utah, Oregon, SC. Like they can have pretty good wins because a couple of those teams are going to win 9 games, right? So if you beat 9-win teams. Like, even if LSU is not good, I did have the thought, like, it's just going to be hard for Ed to, A&M, Bama. I guess he could beat Auburn. Does he beat both the Mississippi teams? Now, I have to look at their schedule. If he plays Georgia or Florida, like, is he going to go like 7-5? Or they're so talented they end up going 8-4. And they could even have, I remember they have the last couple of years, like, I guess 2 years ago they didn't lose, but, they can, if they're just on, beat Florida. Right? They just, or A&M, like they have the talent if it just goes well in a game to beat anyone but Bama.
Right. So it's 8-4 with a bowl loss that they don't want to play in 8-5, maybe.
Yeah. But 8-4, like when you're talking, but before the bowl game, that 8-4, or as they're getting 6-7 wins, does look better as the season goes on. Right? You need, to me, if you're UCLA, like here's where it does not translate. Do they win 4 games? Like, are they just the biggest talking point, like the biggest disaster of a team? That would be bad. I'm with you. When you watch it, you don't feel like they were that bad. UCLA's outplayed them, and they're solid. But that conference, if it snowballs, and then it starts, like, is there rumors by early October, like Ed Ogeron could get fired?
But he could. But part of it is what you did. Like, now you're UCLA, you got your attention, right? Now the spotlight is on you. Do you take care of business? Because we got the question in the chat, like, does one loss Clemson get in over undefeated UCLA in the college football playoff? No. If you go undefeated in the Power 5, you make the playoff. The question is what happens with two one-loss teams, right? Who are both conference champions. That's where it gets dicey. Like if UCLA's one loss, they win the conference championship. Clemson's one loss, they win. Then we start comparing, whatever. Because then UCLA's loss would probably be worse than Clemson's loss, right? Clemson's loss would be neutral road, basically, Georgia. UCLA's loss would either be Fresno State or a league loss. But historically, if you're a one-loss team, you're getting one loss. You're getting in. UCLA's getting in. But no one in the Pac-12 has ever gone unbeaten in the Pac-12 era.
If Chip Kelly, whatever the record is,
he still has 9 league games to play, John. We're a ways to go.
If Chip Kelly takes UCLA to the playoffs, it's one of the biggest Pac-12 stories in the history of the conference, right? It'd be remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of the college, because he would have taken now 2 teams. How many guys have taken 2 teams to the college football playoff? Or I guess the first one was BCS.
It didn't exist, but but he'd be the equivalent. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Has anybody else done it twice with 2 different programs?
Saban,
Jimbo, A&M.
No, because Jimbo, no. Ogeron, no. Yeah, I mean, probably not.
Maybe one day.
Urban technically would have.
Yeah, Urban.
He would have.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a short list.
You start talking about him like the genius again if he does it, because here's the one thing we know, like you can get players there at UCLA.
Will it count if Chris Peterson comes back to Washington next year and takes them back for a second time in like 3 years?
You know, I'm watching Chris Peterson on TV the other day going, what's his next coach? Is he coming back? Because he does the thing where he takes a year off and just hangs out on the dock and rides his boat around Seattle. Now
But, God, that is the school for him. Like, that is his spot.
I know.
Like, to me, Washington and UCLA are like the two. He's a West Coast guy. He's not going to coach in the other conferences. Like, that, it's just
UC Davis. I mean, Dan Hawkins might get another job if he keeps it rolling at UCD.
Yeah, not great.
Maybe
he just wants. Maybe it's just one of those. Like, I just wanted to get back to my roots.
Back to
not
Boise?
all the hoopla.
How does Boise
I go to
through
Davis.
like 6 coaches and always look exactly the same? It blows my mind.
How do all the Boise coaches look the same? They're all in shape. They all look like 36.
They got a type.
Got a young family, just like guy. Like, I'd want to be friends with that guy.
It's
he
always
just looks kind of cool.
They're like, when one coach leaves Boise, they're like, should we clear out Harson's coaching locker? They're like, no. Andy Avalos wears the same size and everything.
Well, like, listen, we're Fresno guys, our guys, and we got some guys over the years, but they're a little like rougher around the edges. It feels like body shapes all over the place. You know, just at any moment, their body. Like Lane's a good example. He's fat, he's skinny, he's all over the map. Like our guys are just, you never know what they're gonna look like in a given season. Boise's just like a more buttoned down version of just. They just all look the exact same. Every fucking one of them. All of them. I didn't know what Avalos looked like, but that's what I would imagine Avalos looked like once I saw him. Like, oh, yep, that's what he looked like. I had never seen him. Maybe I'd seen him in a box when he was at Oregon, right? His head.
Yeah.
But like that body. And then it's like, oh, yeah, he was a linebacker for Boise in 2000 to 2004. And then the highlights are him making sweet tackles. And they're kicking the shit out of people. It's like, all their guys were the same human being. Because if you played for that era, all you did was like, yeah, we lost 3 games in my career. Like, that's all their things. Yeah. You know? It's incredible.
There's 2 types of people, John. People that can take a golf shirt off the rack, put it on, and wear it untucked and look good, and people that can't. That's 2, and that's every Boise guy is just that guy.
John Lynch.
John Lynch, exactly. It's John Lynch. By the way, before we get out of here, Max says on the chat, for the mailbag, if we don't have access to iTunes, is Facebook page or Messenger the better way to get a question in? The Facebook page, I guess if you message me, that comes to me, but you can message, which is not what you want to do if you're trying to get a mailbag in. You want to message promo code HAM, the Haberman and Middlecoff page. But I'm not sure. Those are 2 different messages, right? Yeah, you can message us versus, like, you can message the HAM account versus messaging us directly. The reason is because we go to the Facebook page to find your questions, and if it's on my phone and my messenger, I'm gonna lose it. So,
same.
I hope that answers that question.
Will not keep it. I just looked. Somehow the Giants they must have just kicked the shit out of Walker Buehler because they're up to 6-1.
Yeah, the Dodgers are wearing their all blue uniforms, which I want to hate, but they look like BYU.
Good look.
I mean, no, but kind of sweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not terrible. You know,
they look like Boise's field.
Sleep on Cap. Kapler just refuses to lose.
All right. On that note, thanks for hanging, everybody. Big week ahead. Haberman and Middlecoff DraftKings League is coming, so get in that, and we'll see how much we want to bite off here for week 1. But
let's do it, baby.
Get in it. All right, later, everybody.
Peace.